Just because you haven't bloomed doesn't mean that you won't. Most people don't struggle because they're lazy or unmotivated. They struggle because of things that people rarely talk about. So today I want to talk about 5 reasons why people struggle to bloom or struggle to grow. Blooming isn't about doing more or trying harder. A lot of us are walking around thinking we're behind, but really we're just in seasons that don't promote our growth and therefore don't allow us to bloom. So this is another sit down cozy chat with B. Welcome, my name is B. Nice to meet ya. I'd like to share my insight on what I learned in my 20s and things I've learned as an ex-people pleaser. I'm not gonna lie, I do have notes right here. So to keep it as authentic as possible, my notes are in my lap and we're going to be referencing them while I'm talking. So just so y'all know, let's keep it real. So the first point I want to talk about that stops people from blooming or becoming a better version of themselves is the fear of being seen. Look, I feel attacked already because I struggle with this all the time. I catch myself constantly struggling with this and it always holds me back and I always fall into this trap. Because let's be real, blooming is visible. And being seen while you're still growing or trying out something new can be extremely vulnerable. And I feel like a lot of us just hate feeling that way. I get it. There's this concept called the fear of being seen or the fear of being perceived. And I feel like most people aren't actually afraid of failing. They're afraid of being seen and judged by others. Undeniably, I feel like we care a lot more about people's opinions of us than we should. And I know that's something I had to actively work on in 2025. Because it feels like the moment you try something publicly, people have all these opinions and comments and things like that. And at the end of the day, it really don't matter. Even though in our head, our entire worlds are going to end if somebody says something negative to us. That fear of being seen, that fear alone keeps a lot of us playing small. And notice I will say us a lot because I am guilty of a lot of this stuff. Like I've fallen into this trap so many times. I've tabled ideas and concepts just from second guessing myself. And then I wait and I turn around and I see somebody else do it and I see them do it well. And I'm like, what was I worried about? They did the exact same concept I just thought of. God gave it to somebody else. For me personally, this ties back to past trauma, past experiences where when I felt like I thought differently or I acted differently, I was bullied or criticized for it. That's something that stuck with me for a really long time. So now when I'm trying to show up in front of all these people, that's the first thing that pops up in the back of my mind. I pushed it to the back way, I pushed it out the door because things have changed so much. And one small moment of showing up or taking a step forward has literally changed lives. For the most part, many of our dreams or goals, in order for us to achieve that result, somebody has to see us. We have to be seen. So when you think of it in a way, it's more of a catalyst than a barrier. I love my anime One Piece cards. I love anime and I love One Piece, y'all. But it was too big. I was like, it was doing too much with the mic. So we're going to switch to this little skincare packet. Y'all just don't judge me, just mind your business, okay? Well, mind my business for now until the video's over, okay? But yes, times have changed and the people that take the leap always are a couple footsteps ahead of the people who just sit and watch and wait. Because if you're not trying, you're not really making progress. And honestly, I feel like the trade-off's not worth it. The trade-off's not worth it. I feel like I could probably be in a different place if I didn't table so many ideas or push things off because of this fear. And honestly, when I reflect on it, I'm like, maybe what I'm afraid of so much is actually what will help us bloom in general. Like maybe someone needs to see you. Think of the artists, the actors, many people on the internet who just did that one post and it literally changed their lives, you know? So you just never know. And like a famous philosopher once said, and if they hate, then let them hate and watch the money pile up, okay? Number 2, survival habits and still trying to grow in your survival soil. And I'm trying to stick with this theme of blooming because I just love it. I just actually rebranded it Beaches Blooms and I'm obsessed with blooming and just all this stuff. So bear with me. I hope this helps somebody. Sometimes you can't bloom in the same conditions that taught you how to survive. I actually picked up like owning plants as a hobby this last year and I love it. I have my little money trees. I have a couple plants and I want so many more. I've been having a little plant in my work desk. Depending on the plant, the type of plant you are, you need a different environment. You need different type of nutrients in the soil. I feel like in life, things like people pleasing, perfectionism, overworking, hustle mentality, those are like survival. I feel like those are things we seek out of survival and not necessarily are good long term. And I feel like these things can eventually become weeds in your life. Specifically, I saw that happen for me. So I had to dial back on the people pleasing and things like that. And that's kind of how I started talking about this type of thing on my channel because I want to share it with everybody else. I was a really bad people pleaser. And I look back at my upbringing in my teens and as well as like my early 20s, I feel like these same things helped me get to the place I am today. Overworking and hustle mentality and being a perfectionist and being a people pleaser. It helped me like grow and get to the place place I am now, I do believe that two things can be true at one time, meaning like it was beneficial then, but after a while, it's no longer beneficial for the person that you want to become or the season that you're going into. For me personally, I had to realize that perfectionism and people pleasing was holding me back, especially perfectionism, because when you're trying to be so perfect, nothing is perfect. It feels like it delays seasons in which you're just supposed to step foot first and just follow your faith. And when you're so busy trying to make things perfect, sometimes it feels like you miss your little threshold of when you should have actually done it. Will you miss that bus and will you miss it completely? No. But I look back on some things and I'm like, I was just so busy trying to make it perfect when I missed out on all this other stuff or all these other lessons that I should have learned in that same moment. So like I mentioned before, I believe like some of your survival habits can be a catalyst at one point, but a barrier later. Something that pushed you forward in prior years can actually be holding you back now. And that's kind of what I mean by trying to thrive in survival soil. To bloom, plants need light, water, soil, and the right nutrients in the right environment. Without that, the growth can kind of be delayed, slowed down, or some plants might just die in general. Like when we take that concept and apply it to life, it becomes very evident. But yeah, without those nutrients and those essential things you need to grow, you can't grow no matter how much potential. Sometimes we look at potential more than we look at the realistic views of things. And that happens a lot when you're in an environment that you're comfortable in, but might not be serving you. I'm a huge advocate for changing environments. Like I actually just left a toxic environment about a month ago and moved into a new place. I did post a vlog about it. And I can already sense a difference in my energy, my drive, motivation, all of that. Since I've been here, it just feels so much different. I'm a big advocate of that. Even when I was younger, I left home at 17 and I just moved, and I've lived in a couple states, and every time I change my environment, especially if it's one that I feel like suffocating, I always get something positive out of it. This is what I wrote. Your environment isn't just where you live, it's your workplace, your friendships, your routines. Some soil simply no longer has the nutrients to support who you're becoming. And that's what I was trying to say. And the bottom line is a lot of people are trying to bloom in soil that was never meant to nourish them. Are you trying to bloom in soil that was never meant to nourish you? Good thing to think on. Number 3, lack of clarity and intention. No space or direction for growth. A quote that I've heard pretty frequently is that most people don't lack talent, they lack direction. I believe that blooming requires clarity and intention. My word for 2025 was intentional, and I chose that very deliberately because I felt like my life was busy but not focused. Because I felt like I was just moseying on through life. Intention is about having, or described as having, a plan or purpose behind what you're doing, knowing why you're doing something and not just staying busy. I felt that so deeply. I feel like as I reflected on other years, I was busy and I was doing stuff, but why was I doing that stuff? For somebody else? Was I doing it for me? Was I doing it for my ego? Was I doing it to prove something? I don't know. Would I go back and change some things? Yes, but most no, because a lot of things are learning experiences. When you don't really know what you're aiming for, your energy and your effort gets scattered amongst all these things. And suddenly you're working on a million things at once and you're just not even understanding or remembering why you started these things or what your focus was in the first place. Oh, yeah. In my notes, I put potential needs focus to grow. And when everything feels chaotic, growth naturally slows. My lack of clarity and intention caused me to waste so much time in my 20s. I was such a people pleaser and I was such a go-getter. I'm gonna prove them wrong and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. And now in my 30s, I look back and I was like, I didn't even care about half that stuff. I was just trying to prove something. It didn't matter what it was. I was just trying to prove something. I was putting my energy into the wrong bucket simply because I didn't have direction. And this isn't just about content creation, entrepreneurship, or business or career paths. This also pertains to your personal life too. So if you feel like you're struggling to bloom, maybe it's time to go back to the drawing board, plan it out, and get some direction on where you want to be and what direction you want to be moving in. Or otherwise, you will stray to a different path eventually. And just as somebody who's a multi-passionate creator or creative, I'm not saying that to say that you have to choose one thing. I'm just saying that you need to be intentional about how you pursue the things that you do choose. Maybe in one season you pursue this or you work on that. So last year I had a set of ideas and things I wanted to focus on, but this year I got something else that I wanted to work on, but I couldn't work on all of it at one time because the energy was going to be too divided, basically. Number 4, burnout mistaken for laziness. You're not lazy. you're burnt out. So many people think that they're lazy when they're just actually burnt out. You can't create, dream, or expand when you're running on empty, and it doesn't mean anything is wrong with you. Sometimes you're so burnt out. I went so many years not even realize that I was burned out. To be completely honest, I'm actively fighting against burnout right now. It took longer than a year. It's been like 3 years and I'm actively still fighting it. So I'm here with y'all. If you're feeling this way, I'm here with you. For those of you who are new here, I ran my own online apparel company, and before that I worked for a major tech company with a really bad work-life balance, really bad culture there. So between those two things, I was a terrible boss to myself, and it was just a terrible situation with working there as well, working 50, 60 hours a week. It was just too much. So between those two, I got burned out. And then after I decided to quit those two things, I had to start over. I had a breakup and all this stuff, and everything just hit me, and it was just a major burnout. So I'm recovering from basically 5 to 6 years of dealing with just craziness. And it's taken a lot longer than I want to. And sometimes I'm very hard on myself because I'm like, I have these big, ambitious, lofty goals. Why am I not putting the work in to work towards them? And then I realized, I'm like, I'm tired, I'm too stressed. I got sick and stuff like that. My body is literally trying to tell me to sit down and rest. And I didn't realize that until I started resting. Also, another reason why I started this channel, we talk about hobbies and living a softer life and things like that for your health, for your mental health, and other things as well. But working for myself and working for that tech company, in both situations, I like boundaries, and that pushed me right into burnout. I spent years beating myself up for not having the energy and drive to chase the ambitious goals I set for myself. I thought I was failing myself when in reality, I was exhausted beyond my limit. I fought the truth for about 3 years until I finally gave it to God and allowed myself to rest and heal and stop trying to fix it. I let God fix it. And that's when it clicked. It's not laziness. I'm burnt out. My body is literally screaming, telling me that if I would just sit down, be present, and listen. When you're exhausted, there's nothing left to give growth. Like your cup is just, when you're burnt out, it feels like your cup is basically empty with a crack in it. Until you patch that crack, it's going to be real hard to keep that cup full. And that's exactly the reason why you're struggling to bloom. There is definitely a difference between laziness and depletion. And honestly, that's one of my main pillars of the channel. I just want to show growth after rest and sharing what I've learned along the way. And yes, laziness is real. Let's not pretend it's not. Laziness is definitely a thing, but there's very much a difference between laziness and being burned out. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is to rest in preparation for your blooming season. So there's nothing wrong with you. My lip gloss got on. So yes, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just burned out. Number 5. So number 5, I feel like the millennials are really going to resonate with this one. We're going to talk about it. And this one is feeling guilty for wanting more or feeling unworthy of blooming. I struggle. I'm still struggling with it, but I'm pushing through. I'm struggling with it and I'm pushing through. This one gets really deep. Like, some of us were taught that wanting more meant you were unrealistic and ungrateful. As a result, we cap our own dreams before anyone else can, which shrinks ourselves and kind of stops us from blooming in a way. I can make an entire video about this, but I'm gonna keep it brief. It's okay to want more even when you have enough. It's okay to be ambitious. It's okay to dream. I personally had to shrink myself in the past just because of the pushback or people trying to knock me down a notch anytime I vocalize my dreams or my goals or whatever it may be. Anytime I showed signs of wanting better or doing better, I feel like I was getting knocked off my little high horse or whatever people want to call it. And that made me just keep to myself, kind of shrink down, because I felt like I was stepping on people's toes by simply existing and wanting more. The generation before us often had a very different mindset regarding work and life. And I feel like we're seen as a generation that doesn't want to fit into the mold and we want to break the rules. And honestly, that's kind of true. I love that for us. I believe that you can walk in gratitude and be ambitious. You can dream big without stepping on someone else's toes. And if you are stepping on their toes for being a dreamer, then they have some soul searching to do. That has nothing to do with you. That's a them problem. If someone is offended by your goals, that usually says more about where they are than where you are going. I wrote that down. I had to read it to y'all. If someone is offended by your goals, that usually says more about where they are than where you're going. I had to remind myself that this is my life, and I would shrink my dreams for other people and then resent myself for not fully going for it or when I didn't get the things that I was seeking. I thought wanting more meant I was greedy, but the truth is we're all worthy of blooming, and there's room for everybody to bloom. And blooming might not look the same for everybody, but the permission to grow, that's universal. Everyone has the permission to grow and bloom and go after things that they really feel passionate about. Don't let anybody dim your light. Stop shrinking yourself. Because the more you shrink yourself, the less you'll be able to bloom and grow and have this life that you're like envisioning. And that's all 5 reasons. Like, I love this. Oh, I was so excited about this video. I really hope that what I said like resonated with somebody or helped somebody, or it's confirmation to a couple of things that you may be struggling with that might be holding you back. If you take anything from this video, let it be this. Blooming isn't rushed, it isn't linear, and it isn't proof of your worth. If you're not blooming yet, it doesn't mean you're behind. It might mean you're healing, resting, changing your soil, or learning what kind of light you actually need. And every season has a purpose, even the quiet ones. I went through, I want to say 3 years of my quiet season, and I'm starting to make a little noise now. I didn't think I would make it, but I did. I'm in my blooming season. Thank you, God. So if you're still rooting, honor that. If you're blooming, take up space. If you like this video, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Comment your favorite part down below. I would love to hear if any of the points that I made resonated with you, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.